I'm back in Michigan, Detroit, Michigan, and my parents, my mom Phyllis, played jazz vibes in my dad Bud's band in Detroit. My dad played drums. Every night after dinner, we'd take the album covers and we'd take the album covers in and put them on the floor and play with brushes. And we would, as my dad would say, dig some jazz. And we'd play along with the songs and my dad would point, ba-da-ba-ba-da-da, and we'd catch the figures. And we had a blast many nights listening to great albums that we love. The Buddy Rich Big Band, the Maynard Ferguson Big Band, Count Basie Big Band, Duke Ellington Big Band, the Woody Herman Big Band, the Don Ellis Big Band, the Stan Kenton Big Band. And we'd listen for hours and play with brushes while my dad would kind of say what was happening with the trumpets and the trombones and the saxes, and really got me thinking about big bands. But we also went to a lot of big band concerts. And just about every month, there was one of those bands coming to a place called Clarenceville High School in Livonia, Michigan. Here's the Mitten, the Michigan Mitten. Detroit is here. Warren, where I lived, is here. Livonia is a little bit west. And this great lady named Midge Ellis, she was a great promoter of the bands. Ed, is there any way that you can focus on this picture on the wall here? This picture on the wall is me with one of my big band heroes, the great Gene Krupa. In that photo, you'll see Gene with his arm around me. Yay, all right, man. And there's my dad behind me and my grandmother to his left. This was at a party after the Benny Goodman reunion concert at Clarenceville High School. My dad said, Gene, is there any chance my son could get a photo with you? And he said, sure. And as he put his arm around me, he said, he's a drummer, right? You're a drummer. And I said, yeah. He opens up his coat lapel just enough so that the GK Gene Krupa band crest logo is showing, and that was one of the coolest moments of my life. That's how I really got into big band. And you think about Gene playing the way he played on so many great songs, this kind of thing. Gene was a movie star too. He was in so many movies and featured. He kind of brought the drum solo to the forefront. And Buddy Rich was a huge Gene Krupa fan. He kind of modeled his setup after Gene, and they were very good friends. Louis Bellson was a great friend of mine, another great big band legend. The first time I think double bass was recorded was with Louis Bellson playing with Duke Ellington on Skin Deep. I think it was 1946. Louis Bellson, what a great friend, an incredible drummer. We used to hang out a lot. We used to play double drums a lot. We played triple drums on this great Buddy Rich Memorial Scholarship concert. It was Louis Bellson, Dennis Chambers, and I, and then Vinnie Colaiuta, Steve Gadd, and Dave Weckl. That trio played, and then we played a trio. And this was October 14th, 1989, here in Los Angeles at the Wiltern Theater. Maybe a year before that or so, on Long Island at a wonderful place called the Westbury Music Fair, Louis and I did a duo. We did a duet. And then Dave and Steve and Vinny did the trio, but we did a duo, and that was super fun too. And we jammed on the song Oleo. So Louis, what a great, great man. But my dream was to be the drummer in Maynard Ferguson's big band. The first drummer in Maynard's band that I became aware of was Randy Jones from Wales. And Randy played on MacArthur Park and the MF Horn 1 and 2 albums. And then Danny D'Imperio, a great New York drummer, upstate New York, I think, played on the great Chameleon album. And then Peter Erskine was in Stan Kenton's band at 18 years old. I was at one of his Kenton Camp drum clinics. My brother Matt would go into the bass department room with John Worster, the bass player. I'd go into one room with Peter Erskine. Next thing I knew, Peter was playing in Maynard Ferguson's band. I went to North Texas State, and it's kind of a farm club for a lot of big bands, but none of the guys from North Texas had cracked the Maynard Ferguson gig. So here's a little secret about how things can work. I was praying. I'm a big believer in prayer. Please, God, help me get the gig with Maynard Ferguson's band someday. And you got to really work at it. I took a lot of lessons. I studied big bands. I played in big bands back in Detroit, played in a lot of big bands at North Texas, the 9 o'clock, the 5 o'clock, the 2 o'clock, the top band, the 1 o'clock. And then one day, I'm driving down the street in Denton, Texas, and I look up, I see a tour bus. It says the Maynard Ferguson Band. You gotta be kidding me. And I got out something, kids, called the Yellow Pages, and I looked up the Holiday Inn in Denton, and there it was, and I went to my landline. Hello, Holiday Inn? Yes, can I please have Maynard Ferguson's room? Sure, I'll patch you through. What? They patched me through. Maynard didn't answer, he was out, but Stan Mark, the guy that was in charge of the hiring and the firing, he was in Maynard's room getting the t-shirts, because he also did the merchandising stuff. And he said, how can I help you? And I said, well, this is Greg Bissonette from the North Texas 1 O'Clock Band, and I'm a huge fan of Maynard Ferguson. He said, what? You go to North Texas? Kind of a straight-ahead jazz school? I thought all you guys only liked Woody Herman and Stan Kenton, Buddy Rich. I said, no, I love those bands, but Maynard is my favorite big band. And I love the Beatles, they're my favorite band, and you guys do a cover of Hey Jude. And the horns go out in the audience, and he said, well, how can I help you? And I said, well, I'm playing a gig tonight, about a half hour, 45 minutes south in Dallas with a great R&B band called Buster Brown. We do Stevie Wonder, Earth, Wind & Fire, a bunch of originals. Why don't you all bring your horns and come down and sit in? And he said, man, our bus driver is asleep by 8 o'clock, so he can get up the next day and drive. And I said, well, I have 4 friends. I've already arranged it. They have station wagons. They'll take all of you down there. I'll put your names on the list. You sit in with the band, and drinks around the house. And he said, wow, we'll be there. And the whole band came down. They sat in with our band. Stan Mark told me that night, we have a drummer, but when he leaves, you got the gig. What? That's how it works. A few months later, they called and said, we need a bass player and a keyboard player. Do you have any recommendations? I said, yeah, my brother Matt is my favorite bass player, and this great keyboard player that can play synths and grand piano, Ron Pedley. They both sent in audition tapes, and they were ushered in, and they went on the road first. And then I moved out to LA, and then I got the call from my brother. Our drummer's leaving. You got the gig.